Hey, it's Heather at Adventures in Gardening, and this is the final video of the year, my 2024 wrap-up, and I'm going to just give you the highlights of the year. I'm going to tell you some things that were not so great that happened, and then some things that were really great, and some things that I'm going to improve going into the new year. And for me, gardening is all about lessons learned, and just keep on accumulating knowledge of gardening and to be able to do it better. But the deciding factor on how our gardening year is going to go is going to be the weather. It's always about the weather. And 2024, we had a little bit of everything. We truly did. Started out the year with plenty of snow and ice storms. And then here where I live, I'm kind of close to the shore in Connecticut. And we can go from, having lots of snow to this big thaw, and then like today it was almost 60 degrees, so it was really nice today. So the first half of the year we had lots and lots of rain. It seemed like if it was the weekend it was going to be raining, and then as we moved into the season it was like somebody just shut it off and it was dry. We had dry conditions from mid-season all the way into fall, so far into fall that I don't think most people noticed how dry it actually was, to the point where I'm a little concerned on the perennials coming back. Some of the perennials coming back this year, so we will wait and see what happens in the springtime, but it was really dry. So right here where I garden, we live on a pond, and we decided that we were going to invest in pond blankets to help suppress the weeds that are growing where I wasn't physically going in and hand weeding or raking out. And so we did that this year, and at the same time our town decided that they were going to repair a bridge, the dam at the other end, and they dropped the water levels. So when they dropped the water levels up here on this end, the beavers said, no more water for you, so they built their dam, and so our water levels dropped. So we are very shallow at this end where I am, so it turned into just a mess. It was a mess. We went from these really fun days where we were out there playing in the water to the weeds and everything's decaying, and it kind of smelled like high tide some days. So that was most of our summer here, and into the fall we had no water to speak of. So we found other things to do though. So I'm standing here in my greenhouse as the sun is setting on the last day of the year. So it's 4:30 in Connecticut, and that's what happens this time of year. But this greenhouse is a tremendous blessing to me and continues to be so. It's very low maintenance. I apply very little heat to it. I use it this time of year half storage. Well, actually this is kind of just storage because nothing is really growing this time of year, but I've got cole crops in here. I've got a jasmine, I've got some fig trees on the other side. It's never completely empty, but it is just like having a big cold frame this time of year. It gets really nice during the day. I keep lots of terracotta. There's terracotta all around here, hoping that it absorbs the sun and the heat and release it slowly overnight. And sometimes that works out, and then sometimes it doesn't. So I try to come up with a program for myself. Every year I try to get a little bit better at doing things than I did the year before. I keep good track with video and on paper. I keep track of the things that I do. So I started my first seeds of 2024 on February the 5th, and then I kept starting seeds the entire season in this greenhouse through October. I was still starting seeds. Now I'm just getting ready to start over again. So it's this beautiful little cycle, and I think it helps me to not feel the winter as much by being able to plant things and move forward towards spring with starting seeds. But the bulk of what I do in this greenhouse is I grow organically grown heirloom tomatoes and peppers and herbs for my local community, and literally a couple thousand plants will come through here in a season. And I had a great year for my business. A lot of great customers that just keep coming back, and I can't wait for this year, and I can't wait to show you some of the new tomatoes I'm going to be growing. I have a lot of customers that like to grow tomatoes in containers, so I've got to grow tomatoes in containers. So I've got a new lineup of tomatoes coming through, and in the next few weeks, hopefully I'll do a video and show you some of the ones that I'm going to be growing that are specifically suited to container growing. That means it makes it easier, not that you can't grow anything in a container. So I am blessed to have 2 granddaughters, and so my days are filled with firsts, you know, or the wonder of nature, and I just love that. So this year it was worms. Specifically, it was compost worms, and also slugs. And at first, she wasn't really so sure about the slugs.
Just give them a little push. You don't.
They're gonna sting me.
But then she decided the slugs were her friends.
Eleanor, what do you have?
A slug.
Uh-huh. And what are you doing with him?
Whipping him.
Uh-huh.
Now Mimi did set her straight. The slugs are not friends to the garden. Everything it's all about, is it a friend to the garden or is it an enemy to the garden? So teaching kids about critters in the garden is one of my favorite things to do. And with all the rains that we had at the early part of this season, we had plenty of slugs. So my favorite method for taking care of slugs is just dishes of beer left throughout the garden, or hand collecting them and putting them in the dishes of the beer, and that works for me. But what I wasn't expecting, and I should have known, every year when we have a bigger than normal population of something specific that is there to eat something else specific, that's a good thing, except I have a very healthy fear of snakes, and I have never seen so many snakes in the garden as I did this year. And I think it was because we had so many slugs. There was plenty to eat. And so my brain and my mouth, we don't see eye to eye all the time. I keep trying to say, don't worry, there's going to be a snake. You know there's going to be a snake, and I still, snake, I still do that. So I can't help it. But they were there for a purpose, and I'm glad for that. My most watched video of this year was my hosta video. Who knew? Who knew you guys were out there? Okay, a lot of people watched it. And I'm a huge hosta fan. I love them. I love to collect them. And so we had a great hosta season early on. The fall, not so much. But I look forward to showing you guys the hosta garden in early spring this year when they first start to come out of the ground. So watch for that one. Okay, so some really great things that happened this year. Blackberries. Okay, I had an arbor that was at the top of the hill. I used it for my my grill canopy, and we have storms that come through here that will just knock everything over. Okay, we got to pull the grill in real close. The winds are unbelievable that we get sometimes. It's actually very weird. But my arbor went from the top of the hill to the bottom of the hill. There was nothing on it. There was no canopy. It just went down there, and I said, you're not going back up. So I found a new home for it, and that was to support my blackberries. It was so nice to be able to just stand under there and just pick my blackberries this year. And I had a great blackberry season. The freezer is still full of them. We throw them in smoothies and we make desserts. So that was actually a great thing for me this year, and I was just so happy that it all ended up like that. Other best parts of this year were the porch containers. They were fantastic this year, and it was because of coleus, okay, and just the right amount of sunshine and the right amount of shade, and we had very vibrant color containers from spring until the fall. Zinnias recaptured my heart this year. Specifically the Queen Lime series. The Queen Lime Orange was out of this world. I mean, the Queen Lime Red, I love that one too. I guess it was just a perfect year for zinnias. They looked really fantastic. So I'm going to definitely be doing a lot more zinnias in 2025. Another best of 2024 were cucumbers. I mean, we had a lot of rain, right? Cucumbers I planted a little bit later into the season. We had so many cucumbers. I was juicing them. We had so many cucumbers. We had so many cucumbers, and I made so many pickles, and I'm like, I don't want to make any more regular pickles, so I did refrigerator pickles instead. And I had those great big jars, and they're still in the refrigerator. We're still eating the refrigerated pickles. I know what the directions say. Okay, they smell okay, they taste okay, we're doing okay. I used those great big jars and I gave them away, so everybody had some pickles. It just has a different taste to them than the regular canned pickles do. So that was like one of the better things that I did this year, was make refrigerator pickles with all the cucumbers. It's not really a garden season until all of your surfaces in your home are covered with tomatoes. Yes, we had a lot of rain and the plants actually didn't look so great, but we had a lot of tomatoes nonetheless. It was a great tomato season. I froze a lot of them. I made sauce, and there's still plenty in the freezer, and I'm pulling them out whenever I need to make some sauce. So it was a great tomato year. So I pretty much harvest the whole season. We're eating from the garden, or I'm picking something, but the big harvest at the end of the season was not disappointing at all. Okay, we had fantastic peppers and plenty of other things that came into the house at the end of the season. So the dahlias this year, they were later than normal, they were shorter than normal, but they were still spectacular as normal. So it still ended up being a great dahlia season, but I am a little concerned when I took them out of the ground. Remember the drought I was telling you about? Oh my goodness, I've never seen the dahlias as dry as they were when I was pulling them out. I've already misted them a couple of times, so hopefully they'll be okay. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to buy all new dahlias, I guess. So what else happened in 2024? Well, butterflies happened. Lots of butterflies. Of course there were monarch butterflies. We had at least 100 butterflies went through my home as caterpillars, and I fed them the milkweed as I normally do. But there were also plenty of other butterflies that were visiting the garden, and one of which I have never seen in this area, and it's the pipevine, the pipevine swallowtail. And because we have a pipevine here. How did it know? I don't know, but I got lots of pictures of it, and I'm hoping that we will see it again, or we'll see more of them next year. So what won't I be doing again in 2025? What won't I be growing again? Well, I kind of will and I kind of won't. So one of the things that I did this year was I grew I think I started the season with 6 early wonder tomato plants in here in about June, and I grew them the entire season in the greenhouse. There was no disease, there was no black spot. We got tons and tons of tomatoes from them. In fact, I got the last tomatoes of the season, the end of November. Here, I pulled them out. But you see, I got a little I don't want to say greedy, but I got a little I wanted to push the buck a little further, and I did more tomato plants, and I grew them on the top shelves in here. And I'm like, well, how far into the season can I go? And then how far into the season can I go by applying a little bit of heat? Now, what does that mean? Oh, we're a little frugal. I'm a little realistic, so I kept it about 38 degrees on my heater, and we maintained the tomato plants. That's it. There were tons of tomatoes. There were tomatoes all over in here. They were green. And here's the thing, they all just stopped. Now, I expected that this was going to happen. I really did, but I didn't want to just throw them all out, all right? I wanted to see what was going to happen next. Well, they kept growing. And they were shading the things that needed a little bit more sunlight that I know will do well in here. And finally, I came in here and I cut them back. I thought, well, let's do that. And any of the tomatoes, maybe they'll ripen, maybe they won't. Well, we got single-digit temperatures, and that was it. Everything froze. And honestly, I needed that to happen because I wouldn't just throw them out. I needed them to be ruined. And so lesson learned, okay? Would I do the 6 again throughout the entire season? Yes, I would. That early wonder tomato, you got to try that one. It is a determinate tomato plant, but it produced tomatoes, and the tomatoes that I said I got on November 29th were from an early wonder plant that was here since June. So it is definitely a winner. And that was definitely something that I would do again. But I just wouldn't do as many tomato plants as I did. Okay, so what does 2025 look like for me? Well, it looks very similar to 2024, with the exception I did something this year that I've always wanted to do, and that is I decided to sell cut flowers. Late summer, I think I started to do that. And I thought, well, we'll see if people are interested in it. oh my goodness, people wanted more flowers. I'm like, oh, well, if that's the case, guess what? If people want more flowers, I'm going to produce more flowers. I've always wanted to do it. People like flowers. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put in a new cut flower border. It's going to be on the hill, but I'm still going to do it. So that is something I'm going to start working on right now. So my resolution for 2025 is to increase my cut flower productivity, and I can't wait to show you how I'm going to do that. I'm going to need cardboard and I'm going to need red worms because they're going to do some of the work for me before I start to plant in the spring. So that is it for 2024. Thanks for sticking with me. Thanks for watching the videos. What is your resolution for 2025? What are you going to do new? If there's one piece of advice that I could give you going into 2025, that is do one thing new this year and do it really, really well. Do one thing and do it really well, because guess what's coming next? Spring fever. All right, it's coming and it's real, and spring fever happens and we all are gonna get it, but it's what you decide to do with it that really matters. If you're going to, I always say, most people get spring fever and they're like a puppy that's been in a box and it's your first day out and you're going all over the place, okay? You gotta focus. You got to focus and you got to do things, do them in baby steps, do them really well, because summer is always coming and it's going to be hot, and that's usually when people are like, maybe next year, okay? If it was easy, everybody would do it. So thanks for watching. Thumbs up if you enjoyed spending time with me, and subscribe so you don't miss out on the next adventure in gardening. See you soon.